calls now, with your bag it up. Light up my card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag it up. Say, oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah. It's a full strong, yeah. Oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah.
What's good, people? Welcome into another episode of the STAYWEIGHEDIN show, presented to you by D-Rock Clothing, presented to you by iBoxingHub in association with our sponsor D-Rock Clothing. Listen, it's been a minute. Every time I have like that consistency level that just stinks. I'm here 1 week, I then disappear, and then I'm back again. But one man that is always consistent is our guy Ray. Ray, how are you doing?
Doing all right, thank you, man. You know, new trim. Who's this? The beard. I've cut the beard a bit too low. I don't know, but
yeah, we got the beard just a little bit. We can grow the beard just a bit.
It's all good, man.
But yeah, this weekend was eventful, kinda. It was meant to be. But listen, before we talk about the weekend, there's one thing we got to do beforehand. We got to give a round of applause to Ray. It's his birthday.
Come on, man.
Happy birthday to Ray.
Much love, and I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Now, I've got to say something. Because you're sitting with the brown man, when we get to a certain age, there's one question we're asked. So I'm going to ask you the question.
I'm scared.
And if you know it, then you should know it. But when are you getting married?
Listen.
Because they ask me all the time.
It's a bit of a sticky one. I was at Slow Jams with A R&B event yesterday. Shout out Slow Jams with A. There's a lot of, you know.
Is that Chucky's event?
No. That's R&B and Slow Jams. Shout out to that one too. I've been to that one too, so that's good. But this one was Slow Jams with A. Listen, man, there was a nice lookers out there, but you know, your boy was just chill. I was just taking it in, just vibes in. You know what I'm saying? Shout out my boys. Yesterday was a good time. Met my boys out there. One of my boys' misses, like her friends, like it was it was amazing night, man. So I'm just it's been a long bank holiday weekend, but I'm thankful, and thank you for the birthday blessings, man. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. All I'm saying is you can't get away with that in a Brown household. They will be on you within the next month. I'm just putting it out there.
I've already been. They've got on to me, and I've just said, listen, in due time, inshallah. So we'll see, man.
I get that. So I don't know where to kind of start with this, because look, this is what I will say. I'm gonna put a spin on what turned out to be negative to be positive to a point. I'm gonna say this first and foremost with this weekend. I appreciate Turkey for trying to do something outside of the box. And that's with Friday, because for me, the concept or the idea, I'll go with the concept seemed cool, it seemed innovative, that no one's done it. Unfortunately, when it's something new, the execution doesn't always work. It's the same way I look at it. Like the Riyadh season cards, when they started, the concept was good. The execution sometimes used to annoy us as boxing fans because there was delays. Is this an event, before we talk about the fighters, that you will ever see again? Because I don't think it needs to happen again.
I don't think it needs to happen again because of how it came off, how it was executed and how it came off. It came off, as much as they tried to do the whole exclusive thing and make it prestige, it came off pretentious. And I think there's a thin line of coming off prestige, and there's other side of that is pretentious. And you never want to be on a pretentious side where it's just like, you're just being affluent for affluent's sake, like it's not doing nothing stylish, you ain't doing nothing big with it. You're just being pompous type of thing. Not to say he was pompous, but the event comes up pompous, and the whole feeling of like New York boxing. A lot of people are saying like actual like New York boxing community was shunned basically at the event, and it's almost like you're trying to buy an influence without including the main ingredients, which is crazy, because you're trying to create this whole New York feel, but then there's a lot of people that were saying like they're in the New York scene, and it's like, how can you do this whole big New York boxing event and you don't have key figures there, or you don't have like certain crowds there or certain feelings? It felt like, do you know what it honestly felt like at times? You just bought VIP lounge, put it in the middle of town, City Square, and then it's kind of just like, why have you got a VIP lounge in the middle of City Square for the boxing? Like the atmosphere is not there. A lot of the time with those type of events, if it's just purely industry people in a crowd, it's not going to be exciting, because those are the people that's there to either network, or they've just been around boxing so long that they're not wild and they're not going to show reaction. Everyone's going to act like they're too cool. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And then it didn't help that the fights themselves, boy, it's a bit of a sticky one still.
So this is what I would say, and shout out to everybody in the comments. We got our guy Stevie back in the building, and I'm gonna go to his question. That was my thing as well. Did the boxers do the actual concept justice, or was it a Ring magazine mistake? Because I'm kind of with Steve on this, that I don't think the boxers helped with their performances. Like Teofimo Lopez, love him or hate him, for me, delivered, because he had a tricky banana peel type of fight, and he did what he needed to do to get the win. But he also put on somewhat of a little bit of a show compared to then what we saw with Devin Haney, just basically just going through the motions and winning a fight that we may have wanted, we definitely needed to see more of. And then obviously we'll talk about Ryan a bit more. But yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that. Did the boxers actually do the concept justice?
To paraphrase Jeffrey from The Fresh Prince, it's a draw. They both lose. Like, I think the event itself wasn't executed well in regards to making it too prestige, that you just will come off as pretentious.
Do you know, sorry for cutting you off. I just wanted to say, do you know what it reminds me of? To your point, you know, people who have David Lloyd gym memberships, and they tell you, "I've got David Lloyd gym membership. I've got this. We're in this exclusive club. We can do this." And I'm sitting with my £20 pure gym membership, but you know that £20 gym membership, it delivers for me.
Exactly.
Your gym delivers for you, but then you know what you do? It's too exclusive. That's kind of what it felt like. Like the actual fan is at Pure Gym, and you are just that niche pool of people, that 300 people or whatever. That's what it felt like to me.
It felt like he was trying to cook something, but left out key ingredients. Whether it be the crowd, whether it be the personnel, whether it be the location, whether it be, because I heard some fighters, they didn't complain, but the way they were talking about the logistics of the event wasn't complimentary. Just saying, like, you know, oh, you'd warm up somewhere else, then you have to get driven to the ring, and I'm just like, what type of? I'm all here for pushing boundaries. Boundaries need to be pushed in order to have innovation. That I can't hate on. But there's certain things where it's almost like the idea of it sounds good, but it's almost like, because he's got crazy funds, it's like, even if you don't pull it off right, you may not, I don't know, maybe he is hurting about it, but maybe it might just be like shrugging his shoulders, it didn't work. Whereas if you're in a position where the funds ain't just as freely there, you're going to do more due diligence to ensure that, okay, if I'm going to do this, this has to come off right. Whereas sometimes if you've got an abundance of money, it can come across as, let's try this. If it don't work, on to the next one.
Basically, Chelsea Football Club, we sign a player. If it works, great. If not, we can move on to the next one and stuff.
So, you've seen how they were the last 2 seasons, when they're just buying every and anyone's transfer target without knowing what they want.
But this is what I will say to Turkey, and a lot of people have given him stick. Say you take Chelsea, for example. We bought a lot, like how he came into boxing. He's put the money in, some things stuck with something. But then, as it's grown over time, there's been a formula that's worked. When it comes to certain events, just like Chelsea, we have a starting 11 that works. And then we got a core starting 11 that works. But then when you try to spice it up a bit, it takes a bit of time. But for me, it's just not an event that works. I appreciate it. I get trying out the box. I don't think anybody should be criticized for doing that, like you said. But going forward, honestly, just stick to what you're good at. And Turkey, as a promoter or someone who supports boxing and stuff, I'm going to say, I think he's a genuine fan of the sport.
Yeah, for sure.
And he wants the sport to do it, and he wants to be invested in it. But yeah, just Just stick to what you're good at. You're good at putting on the Saudi shows. We literally saw you last week put on, for me, the fight of the year, and the production on that was good. I think there was a few little things.
Right.
Sadly,
Oh, neutral.
some of the things with some of the fighters unfortunately didn't go their way in terms of you fighting a great fight, but nobody cares because it's too early on.
Yeah.
But that comes with the territory of these Riyadh season cards. But yeah, this little event or experiment for me, job done. Never need to try it again. You don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah. I think Neutral's point about if Turkey was in the Premier League would be indicted for overspending. You know what? That's a very good analogy, and similar to what Ra's saying about, do you think an open area where it's free apart from the immediate ringside area would work, saying Hyde Park? I don't think so. I don't. Do you know? Or I'd say it works for non-elite level situations where it's just like you're trying to capture the audience. But when it's like that high level, you need, because you also got to remember those logistics around this event is not optimum for elite fighters. If you want fighters to fight at their elite optimum performance, you need them in situations where they can warm up properly. You need them in a situation where, you know, the logistics is in their favor. Not, okay, let me get you to warm up, then I'm going to put you in a car where your body's cooling down, and then you're going to drive in this way. Yeah, and it's like, it's not practical, and it looks good. It's almost like those ideas you have when you're younger and naive, but obviously you could only imagine it. Whereas Turkey is just like, oh, all those, you know, like when you was younger and you might create on wrestling games, you might create a wrestling event or a type of
Or you
match.
create a wrestling ring with lots of
Yeah,
stuff.
do you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And you do all that custom mode, and it's like he can do that in real life, which, like you said, sometimes it's paid off, but then other times it comes across as, yo, I don't know why you thought this would work. And like I said, you can try it because you got the funds there, but I also can't tell a man like that, yo, you should put your funds here and there because there's bare people paid to do that. But then it also goes back to what you were saying. I don't think Turkey's a promoter. You can learn, obviously he's worked with promoters and like you can learn from them, but you can't learn everything in that short space of time. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think him trying to like take out the middleman sometimes is kind of like, you can have all the money, but if you don't, you know, take from experience, if you don't work with experience, it's going to be hard to just pull off stuff that you think you can do. Oh, like, oh, I don't need these promoters no more. No, you do. And well, this will then lead on to, I guess we might speak later on about Dana promoting Canelo for Crawford,
I've got a problem with that straight away.
which is hilarious. I saw someone put the funniest tweet out. I'm sorry that I can't give them credit because I can't remember the tweet off the top of my head. They said, I wonder how Canelo is going to feel when he gets that 50K bonus instead of 50 mil. Oh my gosh. Listen, when Canelo gets that 50K bonus of the night, and Canelo's probably thinking, that's just what I expect from my concessions or something.
That's what. But talking about the fighters, like I said, for me, Teofimo Lopez, out of the three fighters that were meant to win,
you already know I don't like that guy, so it's fuck that guy. Sorry, I got to get that.
No, that's fine. But for me, like, he starts to show off, and then he gives a performance enough, because the reason I say that, Barbosa out of the three B-sides was arguably the trickiest one, and then at the same time, a world title's on the line. And he comes out, he does what he needs to do and wins the fight. And like I said, performance-wise, compared to the other two, probably delivers the better performances. And then for me, what was interesting was there's no intention for unification. There's nothing like that at 140. He's like, I want to go straight into boots. I want to fight. I want to win world titles. I want to get, and that for me, like, I'll say this, I've got no problem with it, and I'll be honest, why. You as a fighter stating your intention instantly to me that your next fight or your motive isn't to do with collecting titles or anything in your win. It is, I want to make my money, I want to get out of here, and I want to get the biggest fights possible. Whether that's in my weight class, whether that's somewhere else, I have set you and my intentions out here right in public, and I've got nothing wrong with that. Like that's just my take with Tio right now. That's
I
fine.
think with Tio, it's also a case of he's in no man's land where people don't care enough. So he's saying what I don't know if he means it. I think he
he means
means
it.
it, but he's just saying it to get his name out there. I think Boots hurts him, but then I think Tio also knows he's trying hard to become an A side, but it's just not working for him. So he's trying to do what he can to rile up people to be the B side of a good A side fighter. And I feel like he tried it with Crawford. Crawford, had to put his shoulder on top of him and give him the passive aggressive threat just to calm down. He's calling out Boots now, which I don't think will happen because Boots wants to have the titleist in his division. So it's almost like, yo, you got to mash your own work. Like, you got to get your name popping out there. Whether you have to face the winner of Hitchins versus Kambosos, which I still don't think is going to do it for him. But he needs a good dance partner. And I feel like 147 Boots' time is limited. We all know, like, unification, hopefully Undisputed, and then he's bounced to 154, and at 147, I guess we would have to go into who we thought was going to do things was Devin Haney, who might still be suffering from dealing with the knockdowns because he gave a performance which wasn't favorable. And then you got, if we talk about that main event,
bro, let's go.
Let me tell you about that main event, because I don't like how the way they was wording it with Ryan Garcia, the year layoff. He was suspended.
Yeah.
Suspended for PDs, and for that, as much as people try to shamelessly be like, oh, it was only a little bit in his system, it's conspiracy. How convenient he looks like that straight after the fight of being off of Osterin, or however you pronounce that, PEDs. How significant is that the muscle mass that you had is not there no more? You're not looking as physically imposing. That left hook isn't landing like it needs to land, and the performance is just drip drab, and you get beat by Rolly, out of all people, who, kudos to him, because he is so delusional that he thinks he's great, and he goes in there with, I've got to read it. He goes in there without questioning himself, which you need that level of delusion. And obviously, Ryan Garcia ends up getting dropped, and he just seemed like a guy that's gun shy without the juice.
I was going to say, just quickly read this comment. Tio and Haney at 143. Tio's voluntary now, and Haney, in my opinion, needs to not look at 147. Garcia will look at Ben fight as Barrios is busy. That. I'm okay with it. I feel like
Barrios gets Pacquiao, that is so nasty. Because
I think they are doing that.
That's not going to get the money that. I don't think people are going to put the money behind that fight that Barrios may think is. I don't think Pacquiao's not that name anymore. That
Pacquiao, last time we fought was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The last fight,
we didn't care when he fought Ugas either.
Yeah, you got the Ugas fight. Yeah, Ugas and Jeff Horn. That's what I mean. Like, nobody really cared. But I want to talk about this little duo of them two, Haney and Garcia. What realistically can happen? Because obviously the setup was both guys win, we then make a potential fight between them. How does that for you look right now? Because for me, like I said, Haney, there's one thing I've said about Devin Haney, and this is not disrespecting, because one of my favorite fighters is Shakur Stevenson. But I can switch on a Devin Haney fight in round 11 and know he's won the 9 out of 10 rounds.
Yeah.
And I know I've not missed anything. And that's kind of what we saw here. When it comes to Ryan Garcia, I've never sat here and been his biggest fan. I've never been a big fan of Gervonta Davis as well for certain reasons. But I don't know what to expect from Ryan Garcia. I don't know if he's good or if he's not good. Is he world level? What level is Ryan Garcia for you?
We have to do the battle of the PED Garcia first Ben. That's the fight to make.
Okay.
Both of them coming off a loss. I don't know if they're gonna try both. I don't know if both promoters are gonna try to get their fighters a win before they make that fight.
I think Durham is a loss. I think as a loss it may work because I don't see a Eubank Ben rematch.
No, the Eubank Ben. Listen, we already said last week. Harlem Eubank is one that deserves. If Ben faces a Eubank again, it's against Harlem. We don't want to see it against Chris. But I don't know if, because especially for De La Hoya, Garcia is one of his last hopes. A Golden Boy took a shellacking. Barbosa lost. Garcia lost badly. You know, Cepeda's probably going to get whooped by Shakur Stevenson. And after that, it's like, who does Golden Boy have? Because I know Zerdo's not bringing in the bread at cruiserweight. Cruiserweight is not a sexy division. So it's just like, and especially if Cepeda faces Opataya, you already know what's going to happen. So right now, I don't know if Oscar and the Golden Boy Protection Program is going to actually put Ryan Garcia against. I think that's a good fight. Against Ben is a very good fight.
I think
I don't know what happened
with that. And then does that just leave Devin Haney kind of in limbo for weight and then for fights?
I think that's good for Haney. Haney needs to take this time to, size up properly at 147. Still keep on filling out your frame, keep on working out, get yourself to a strong 147 and fight on undercards and just learn to whatever he's dealing with in regards to how he's dealing with the loss to Ryan Garcia. Use this time to fight the same way when AJ was on the rebound after losing to Usyk, where I was telling people, everyone's just like, oh, look at AJ's fighting these nobodies, which they weren't, but that's a whole nother ball game. But it's like, no, take the time to face the other non-champions. Yes, they're not going to be as elite as champions, but you're not the champion there. So go there, especially I think Haney's on the WBC route with Barrios already occupied. Take the time to fill out a 147 and get your feet under you again and get the confidence back. Because he wasn't the biggest power punch anyway, but clearly you can tell in that fight that he was buying on feints. He's not him. And that's listen, he's human, that's okay. Get straight back in there. He doesn't look like he took too much damage. Get straight back in there. Fight, a decent enough opponent just to get the cobwebs off and see if you can get your confidence back. Because if this is how he fights on going forward, it's not looking good, bro. It's not looking good.
So we go from Friday in New York to Saudi on Saturday. My boy, Canelo Alvarez, we're back, undisputed, 168.
The legs are gone, man.
No, right. So let me say this first. When you said something, and I'm glad you said it, about being in an optimal situation to get the best out of a fighter. So Canelo Alvarez, I've never seen a fighter arrive so early to Saudi Arabia than I have Canelo Alvarez. He was showing reels on Instagram and posts. I'm thinking, wait a minute, this fight isn't for another 2 weeks. Why is he in Saudi already? And he apparently said up until fight week itself, he never climatized to the actual conditions in terms of the sleeping patterns, the waking up, the fighting, the heat, etc. Whatever that is. But I think it's more the actual climatization to the timing of everything that you had there. Then, if you really look at it, that for me just combined with the fact that you have a dance partner who realistically is just happy to be there.
There's not going to nastiest. I don't know what was going on, but so go ahead.
There's nothing required for Canelo Alvarez to push himself, knowing full well that mega fight in Las Vegas is around the corner. So, look, I will say this. Because he's Canelo Alvarez, people will always be interested in him. But if you're going to make him fight in Saudi Arabia, you do not need to then try to find the middle ground. And basically, you don't find the middle ground because what you've done is you've taken him fighting Saudi Arabia in front of Saudi Arabian fans who, if I'm honest with you, probably were more tired than they were awake because you're getting up to basically pray.
Was Turkey trying to make them fight on American timing in Saudi? Is that the reason why?
That's literally it. So they were saying on commentary, we can't remember there being daylight.
an Undisputed fight not cared about as much as this.
Yeah.
And that's not even taking the mic. I honestly don't recall an Undisputed fight where people are just like,
we didn't care. But like, I think even a commentary they said, we can't believe there's daylight outside. This is the first time we're doing a fight where it's daylight. Apparently, I don't even know what time it is. It might be like 9 a.m. or something in Saudi Arabia, and they're doing it. So if you're gonna get Canelo Alvarez to fight in the UK, I mean in Saudi, make him fight on your time.
yeah,
Because then there will be crowds in there that will be excited. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when the UFC came to England, when Leon and
Edwards,
we were in the ground. Let me tell you now, leading up to it, there was decisions after decisions after decision. They had to play Sweet Caroline at 3 o'clock in the morning before they went live, just to wake people up because they were tired. And then on top of that, then you had fights that again went the distance, and I'm not shocked by it because these guys are tired. And then the guy that's probably, in terms of Turkey side of things, that was meant to wake people up was Martin Bakoli, and he really didn't. He had a stinker. So that didn't then help. Then you fall into Jaime Munguia, goes the distance. I think Badou Jack went the distance. So everything is just stretching out to where it's getting like 9 a.m.
Uncomfortable conversations need to be had on Bakoli, and it hurts
Oh,
because
100%. But this is the thing with Bakoli as well. He's got his bag. So the motivation is just not there, possibly.
Yes and no. I think the issue with Bakoli is, or perceived anyway, he takes fights where it's almost like he knows he won't be in best condition, but the bag is there, which I understand, but he needs to also be careful because his trajectory is still to go up. If it's like at the back end of his career and he's just trying to get every bag, that I understand more. But where he's in his career now, I don't think this is a good strategy.
No.
Because going into fights, and he keeps saying unprepared, but it's just like, brother, how many times are all these fights going to be unprepared? Like, you can't keep on doing that. And he looks impressive. When you want to stand and bang, when you want to stay in the pocket, that's his bag. But then what Ajagba showed is, if you use your feet, it's going to be a long night for Bakoli, and now you're not the boogeyman no more. Everyone's looking at him like,
you can be beaten.
All I need to do is like, not stay in quicksand. Don't get me wrong. Once he's in a pocket, what a dangerous person. But if it's like I wouldn't say get on your back, if you can just stick and move, he looks like he's stuck in the mud.
No, I hear it, and I just was like, I thought he was lucky to get a draw. But yeah, final point in Canelo is, people are going to criticize him, but I will say this: he knew what was happening next with Crawford, and we'll touch on that. It wasn't an optimal time for him to fight, and I'm sorry, if you got the opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez as his dancing partner, because that's basically what you are. You ain't going to beat him. This man doesn't get beat. But you need to put on a better show for us to then care about you, because this is your one chance for us to be like, oh, we can possibly tune into your next fight, because we know you lost to Canelo, but there was something about you. And William Scull failed that test as well. So a lot of people criticize Canelo. For me, he wasn't in the optimal working environment, and he didn't need to put on a performance because he gets the bag. He's Canelo Alvarez, and he was always going to leave with all 4 other belts.
This is shameless, but I can't argue at the same time.
So you agree with me?
Yeah, that's what
I'm saying. It's not Canelo's fault.
No. Listen, I told you, it's shameless, but at the same time, your logic isn't wrong. Because what you're trying to do is bring a lot of excuses for the performance, but they are valid excuses. So I can't even argue it too much. It's not you're not saying stuff that's not true. It's someone could argue it's shameless, but you're not wrong. And now, especially after that face-off, this is where it gets interesting, because I think people saw the frame difference. I won't say size difference, because Canelo is obviously used to find a higher weight, and he's probably more dense weight-wise. Whereas Crawford is like, you look at his frame and you're just like, oh right, I never realized, because I know Crawford kept on saying I've got a longer reach than him, but I've seen shorter fighters with longer reach than people that are taller than. So then when I saw the size, I was just like, do you know what? And the fact that, you know, Canelo's legs appear to be not what they used to be, I'm thinking this could be interesting, and that there's an angle now to promote this in a way of, is Canelo near the end and can Crawford catch him whilst he's on his decline?
This
Like,
is
there's good angle there.
this is the only little criticism I'm gonna say about Canelo. I feel like there's a semi-reliance on his power a bit too much. Where yeah, he's setting up shots, but there's not a level of frequency in your punches anymore. It's like, okay, I can go to the body and then I can go to the head. And I think, but I will also say the competition that you fight will make you sharper. When he fights Crawford, as much as I believe Canelo Alvarez wins this and wins this pretty comfortably, there will be a sharpness to Canelo Alvarez that we haven't seen since pre-Undisputed, in my opinion.
Sharpness, or will he use his size? There's a difference. I don't think sharpness from
Sharpness in terms of
it's gone.
just being switched on, understanding I'm
Okay,
gonna have to
yeah,
box,
that's fair.
box
Yeah,
in a way where I've not boxed since I became Undisputed because I've never been in trouble, and I know that this is a legitimate fight that can get me into trouble. With that being said, like I still will back Canelo Alvarez.
Of course.
Are you going back Canelo?
Absolutely not. I'm going with Bud. However, this is what I'm scared of.
You did this before. I'm just gonna put this out there.
No. I know who you want to say.
You did this before. I would just put this out there.
And I'll put my hands up and say I was fooled. I thought this guy had the dog in him, and he didn't. Small Charlo, we all thought that he had the dog in him to go in there and make it a tear, but it's two different things. I think once you get in there, there's a whole nother ball game. Because I even said it in the review show after that fight, where it was like, there are certain punches I saw Charlo throw, and he's probably thinking, yo, that is my best shot, and this guy's not even wobbled. And I know mentally that broke him in a way of, I can't knock him out. So whereas I don't think
be in that. Do you think Bud could have that?
No, because I feel like Crawford is a better technician, so he's not going to be as reliant on the knockout. Doesn't come. Crawford's one of those guys. He even says it. I don't go for the knockout. If it comes, it comes. But then he doesn't go for it. So I feel like with Crawford is like he will actually look to go in there and outbox him, which some people may argue he's the better technician. So it may not be the most entertaining, but Crawford might come in with a game plan where it's just like, I will score more points than you, period. And if the knockout comes, I'll go for it. But I don't think he's going to go in there expecting to just knock his block off like he does at people at his weight class. Whereas Charlo was like so used to knocking people out at it wasn't even 154. Yeah, 154.
154, yeah.
Yeah, where it was just like he could depend on, all right, cool, even if I'm down on the cards. Because there's fights that, you know, Charlo was outboxed. The big Charlo is a better technician out of them both. And then, you know, the younger Charlo started to find ways to knock people out. Whereas, obviously, he went up in weight and realized, yo, you're not going to go out there and employ the same tactics that you do at your weight class, where there's times you can be getting outboxed and then you've got enough snap in your punches to, like, knock someone out. Whereas I don't think Crawford isn't that guy where he'll be like, if the knockout punch don't come, I'm not going to go for it. I think he's just going to try outbox him. Canelo's shown that the legs may not be there like he used to, so it may not be the prettiest fight, I'll say that, but what a big occasion.
I think that's Ra's point. I don't know if he's much of a hater.
I agree, yeah.
But he's saying that Canelo won't be able to move through the gears, and I get it. My whole thing is I just don't think we will see a performance from Canelo like we have seen between the point of becoming undisputed to now. I think we will see a more elevated Canelo Alvarez. But we've said this, Canelo's not in his prime. Canelo has an exceptional amount of miles on his body. You could put him towards any fighter right now in boxing, nobody has a more high level mileage on their body than Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, you could
In
argue that.
terms
Yeah.
of,
At a high
bro,
level, yeah.
he's had 70 plus fights nearly. He's hitting 70 fights at what, 33, 34?
No, I give
There's,
him that.
he's been a professional longer than some people have been alive, and they're turning like 15, 16 years of age. People are graduating high school, and you've still not been longer a professional that cannot. You
Yeah,
get what I mean? His
yeah.
professional length of being a boxer is crazy. So
I
I
agree,
will
Rob.
say this. I will say that I think the mileage on his body is gonna be a factor in the sense that that's where I see Crawford can dig, because obviously
Yeah,
Crawford fights once a year, whereas Canelo honors at the very least two
don't
times a
do
year,
no, 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 no,
outside
no.
of possible
Bracket,
injuries.
do
But
not
outside of that,
do not do that because
am I wrong?
Canelo was not fighting the monsters. Hint, hint. That he should have been
No,
fighting
no,
at
no, no, no,
168.
no. That's
But let's
my
not
point's
act.
not
Let's
my,
not act like
my
Canelo
point. My
wasn't
point is
fighting the
though.
best of the best at 168 to be like, oh yeah, well Canelo's
No, no,
been.
that's not the point. I'm not saying
If
about who
anything,
you were
if anything,
fighting.
it helps Canelo to be taking those fights where it's not as challenging, but he can still move out there. Because with Crawford, I think the same thing same thing happened at 154, where it was just like it may not have served Crawford as well to have not fought for so long, but that was also out of his hands. So right now,
One thing I'm going to quickly ask about it, because we'll obviously
oh,
do it a bit more. No, one thing I would say, what I mean by is there's still mileage on your body.
of course,
If
of course,
you're
of
fighting
course.
2 times a year, you put the training camp in, naturally
Yeah.
staying in shape. That's my whole thing with Canelo
No,
Alvarez.
that's
Whereas
fair. That's fair.
Crawford, regardless of whatever issues are there, you have that one fight a year, so the mileage isn't as much, even though age is around similar. So that's my
That's
whole
fair.
point with Canelo, is because you, like I said, you ain't seeing superstars, regardless of the quality of their opponent or not, fighting twice a year at his age for the period that he has done. Do you think? I know it's good. You know, when you add on that weight to get to 160, again, for the record, I don't think Terence Crawford will touch 168 in terms of
Yeah, I
that
don't think he's
scale.
gonna. I don't think he's gonna try
I
do
think
that.
he's get to that 164 tops
Yeah, I
for
don't think
me.
he's gonna go all the way. He's
Yeah,
gonna. I think he'll be smart in filling out his weight, but not going over it.
yeah. Do you think that can slow him down? Because I think it does a little bit. Like if he,
No. Oh, it depends how much weight has he put on
mm,
and what's his walking around weight. Because if his walking around weight turns out to be around that, he might just be like. I've seen
like
other
Conor
fighters.
Ben, the way he put on weight, it wasn't a cut. It was I can put on weight and be okay.
Yeah.
But again, for me, like I think that can be an issue. But I just want to quickly get your take on that before we talk about Inoue.
I think it'll be interesting because different sport. I know it's MMA, but
Mm,
George St. Pierre famously fought for the middleweight title later in his career. And one good piece of advice he said was his walk around weight was around 185. And he fought for 185 belt. And he goes, it hurt his body to put on the more weight. And he became more sick trying to put on more weight than his natural body weight is. And he was advising, if you're going to go up in a weight class and you're already at that weight, just fight especially at an older age.
mm.
He was just like, just fight your natural weight then. There's no point putting extra muscle. Obviously, you got to adjust, but there's no point putting even more weight on where your body hasn't, fought at that. Whereas if you just go into training camp without the pressure of knowing like, oh, I don't have to cut weight. I can just go in there. Obviously, still eat clean, but just focus on training and doing your normal strength and conditioning without overdoing it. It will be a good sign as well to show people, listen, more people should fight their natural weight class instead of cutting too much weight down. And I don't know how much Canelo cuts from to get to 168. So maybe the teams know something we don't, but it'll be interesting to see that fight.
And finally, you go on to Sunday night. Was it?
The
Whatever on Sunday.
monster
The
restored
monster,
feeling.
in a way, retains the super bantamweight titles in funny enough, what felt like the actual first boxing event, not necessarily just the fight, just the event, because one, it was in an arena, two, it was on a time where it's normal for boxers to fight
Yeah.
on that particular area, and three, it had a crowd that was alive,
See?
and it felt like a boxing event. The fight itself, I'm gonna be very honest, and this is something that you might not like. I
Mm,
felt like Inoue was a bit careless.
very. Very
Okay,
for his
okay,
own standards.
yeah,
I think, but it's careless, but also I feel like he's in this weird space where it's like, because he's so dominant, it's almost like he likes to get into a scrap to feel alive.
mm,
And I don't like that, only because you don't want to keep on putting mileage on your, like we were just talking about mileage. You don't want to keep on putting mileage on your own body, because I get it, because sometimes with him is like he has these performances against guys that don't come for it. So he probably gets bored of his own performances where it's just like, yo, I need something exciting, because probably, as bad as it sounds, when he gets dropped, he probably thinking to himself, all right, I see I've got someone that's going to be up for it, and he can go out there and put on exciting performances. Whereas some of his previous fights, he knows the people aren't coming there to win. So it's almost like it's almost like he's daring someone to, like, if you really want this, you'll hit me. And then once he gets hit, it's like, cool, I know what to do now. But I also don't like that, because you might run into a punch from someone where it's just like you think you're just gonna get up and your body's just gonna be like, no,
no,
you've got caught and you have to deal with that. But thankfully, he restored the feeling. I didn't see the whole card, but I heard there were some people in the undercard as well that were like restoring the feeling. And I think the reason why this worked out of all the 3 nights is because this is the least tampered with card. Just go out there. Obviously, it was a top rank show. Let the promoters promote and let it just be a normal boxing show. Sometimes the need for extravagance outweighs the actual quality, because that's another thing. Extravagance doesn't equal quality. Spectacle doesn't equal quality. And I feel like what Top Rank showed is, listen, people sometimes just want quality boxing. Just give that to them. Yes, you've got the money to splurge and do this exciting thing, that exciting thing. Just put on a capable card with capable fighters and let the fighters do the talking. Because sometimes it's like they step away from what made people get into the sport, trying to innovate it. And you don't step away from the essence. Stay in the essence. In a way, put on a great performance, and the monster just does what he does.
what does happen with Inoue? Because Raz got this little comment here. He's starting to slip as well. Still great,
Mm.
and we'll go on to win another title at 126. But I see him picking up losses in the next couple of years.
That's is what it is.
But this is the thing, and it's funny you said it, because it's it kind of goes to my thing about, whereas Canelo doesn't engage with fighters, just like, yo, I'm gonna let you guys try to come and see what you can do. Inoue
Yeah,
is completely the opposite way. He'll be like, right, if I have to, I will engage with you,
yeah.
type of thing. And it does make it exciting. I think when it comes to Inoue, because, and again, this is just, Canelo can just step outside, and I would say 90% of people should know who he is.
No, no, no. You're giving him too much credit. I
Okay,
always say this.
okay,
I
let me do this. Let
Wait,
me do.
wait, wait. In North
Okay, no,
America, I always say this: there's no boxing star, universal boxing
okay,
star.
let me say this. Let me say this. Let me say this. 90% of casual boxing fans
Mm-hmm.
should know who he is.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah,
In a way, if he
yeah.
steps outside, I don't know if he gets that. I don't think 90% of casual boxing fans could be able to tell Inoue apart from a normal person on the street.
I think, but in a way, it also has something that many don't, and that's a
Okay.
core base. There's a lot
Okay.
of the funny thing is, there's a lot of American fighters that think that they're rock stars, and it's just like, yo, your own city
Mm.
doesn't rock with you, let alone your state or your country. Whereas Inoue is like, it's almost like that thing of, do you want 10% of a lot or do you want 100% of nothing? There's a lot of American fighters where it's just like, you talk a lot of stuff on social media, you get reactive tweets and everything, but no one cares about watching your stuff. Whereas Inoue is like the opposite. I don't talk too much, but when I fight, my people tune in. And sometimes it's more important to have that cult following than it is to just be someone who draws up numbers on social media in the Western world and no one cares. Not saying that's Canelo, because of course Canelo is Canelo. But in regards to Inoue, he's in a very special, rarefied air where it's just like the whole boxing world may not know me, but those that need to know me know me. And obviously he's trying to grow his presence. But he also is in a predicament where he doesn't have an opponent that can string that excitement. So he just keeps on improving his rep through great performances. Whereas other people have rivals that make it seem like, okay, I want to, same way Canelo at Triple G, where people are just like, I want to tune in. A lot of the time people are going to want to tune in because of rivals. And unfortunately for an Inoue, he just keeps on dispatching everyone at his weight class.
Raw makes the point as well. Don't think anyone can walk down any street in Japan. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can agree with that. The one thing I want to just end on is that in terms of what this card or this weekend gave me, it gave me the fact that people have been coming for Canelo Alvarez as a test. So he's got that. Inoue then does his call out for MJ, who has a fight, I believe, at the end of May.
Yeah.
So that is available. Potentially as well, because Eddie's been calling it out. So now your man has a shot to get the fight. All you have to do before then is not lose. Do not mess it up.
Which is, listen, banana peels.
Anything happens in boxing.
Yeah.
I used to think about that concept of people say it, but it doesn't all, it's just that promoter stuff just to push it back. We literally saw that. We literally saw it. Right, so do not mess this up. But for you, if you had to grade the weekend, where would you grade it? You got to put everything in the total thing. So
if it's all together, it is a 2 out of 5 stars. And the only reason it's 2 is because Inoue saved it, or it would have been 1 out of 5 stars in terms of expectation of the fighters, in terms of execution, in terms of value for money. Both sides didn't deliver until Inoue delivered on Sunday. He restored the feeling. And the funny thing is, he restored the feeling via the traditional boxing routes, which is just let the best fighters face each other. No long talk. No theatrics. Well, some theatrics, but it's almost like genuine theatrics, not contrived theatrics. And let the chips fall where they may. And I feel like that's what happened with the Inoue card, because it was almost like they put in so much budget into the theatrics of the first 2 days that it's almost like they didn't have nothing left for the last day. And it was just like, oh yeah, whether you lot can run your card like a normal boxing card. And guess what turned out on top? The normal boxing card. That's you always, if you're throwing on these big extravagant events, never forget that boxing is still meant to be the staple, mate. I don't even know if I'll just use that term in the correct way, but boxing is still meant to be the foundation. Great boxing is still meant to be the foundation. That's what Sunday showed. Whereas Saturday and Friday was more like trying to put on a spectacle that fell on pretentious ears and eyes.
For me, I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. So I'm gonna give it 50%. I'm gonna give it 50% because I still say this, like, I think Turkey can do what he can do. I think logistically it didn't work out. But for me, he still gave you certain fights, or he gave you certain fighters that are then set to put out a performance. And certain ones, and I'm gonna lean more on the Friday ones, because the Saturday guy, being Canelo, could only do so much because he knew what was next for him.
It was just a horrible card. I think that's what hurt more.
No,
because
this is the thing.
when it's a horrible card but a good main event, then it's salvageable. But when it's a horrible card and a horrible main event, I'll
say this. When we say it, if you look at the names, Martin Bakoli's on there, someone that a lot of people are raving about, doesn't deliver the performance. Jaime Munguia, I didn't watch the fight myself, but again, you coming off that knockout, that was the upset of the year, probably last year. You do what you need to do in terms of just winning the fight. Maybe it could have been a bit more exciting. Buddy Jackson, no name. Again, I don't know how this dude is still fighting. I think he's 41. Don't know how he's doing it, but more power to you. And now you're on these cards. Maybe that was probably one of them performances again that we need a bit more. So the name value was there. Like if you were to strip it and just say it's a normal card for Canelo Alvarez in America, the name value is there for the fighters. They just didn't deliver. So I can't blame Turkey on that. Where you can blame him is probably the timing for everything. New York, again, is an experiment, but the fighters just didn't deliver. And then, yeah, like you said, Sunday probably is the one time where he didn't have his hands on that particular card. And guess what? You got a standard American fighting card.
Listen, I'll say this. Top Rank don't know how to make stars sometimes, but they know how to put on good boxing.
Yeah. No, listen, we're going to just wrap it up there. End it off. Another little birthday shout out, Ray.
Much love again.
Enjoy the year. What we need to do, though, is in this year, you need to get to a show. Get to a show.
Well, listen, we'll make it
apply
happen.
For a show. Apply for a show.
We'll speak to the uppers and we'll make that happen.
But guys, listen, we're gonna wrap this up. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. I believe Eric is gonna be back later on at 9 o'clock. So we're gonna have another show for you guys there. So tune in. But listen, until next time, love and peace.
It's another bang. All the Muslim calls now, whichever get up. I talk my card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag it up. So, it's another one. It's another one, yeah. It's a full strand, yeah. Oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah.